He had thought that everyone took care of themselves outside of school, and ever since he was a child, he enjoyed buying in bulk, which has allowed him to prepare for an apocalyptic scenario. On first dates, he likes to describe himself as morose, charming, and impetuous. Please give lots of love for the deeply charming Chris Huynh.
All right, so when you first open the hatch of a submarine, the oxygen floods the boat. It fills your lungs and it goes straight to your brain. It's a punch of euphoria. And I wanted that feeling. I needed that feeling. But as we were pulling into Sasebo, Japan, I felt nothing. I felt empty inside. Because a few weeks prior to that, my wife at the time, she told me she wanted a divorce out of the blue. She told me while I was laying in a bunk bed by myself in the dark, waiting for her to text me back. So as we pulled in, I had no plans. I just knew I didn't want to be alone. So I tagged along with two of my slightly more senior submariner friends, Steve and Ryan. And their plans were mostly, dude, let's just get chew-highs from 7-Eleven and find the vibes. That's what we did. Went to get the finest cuisine at Japanese 7-Eleven, which is onigiri rice ball, a chew-high, which is, it's a hard seltzer before America discovered hard seltzers. And we each got a fifth of whatever. And they got a hotel at this Dutch amusement park called Wijten Bosch, which is a weird yet amazing place where there's more employees than there are guests. We get there at like 5. So we start sprinting through all the activities they had. We were dancing and singing through each of the 5 parks. And we finally get to our hotel where we can charge our phones. I'm realizing it's 8 p.m. and we need to get some food. And all the park restaurants are already closed. And our friends on the other side of the park, at the Nico Nico Hotel, they said they had some food. I'm like, all right. We get there, and at the Nico Nico, it's just swarmed with US submariners, and yet I find out that their restaurant is closed. And that's fine. We'll keep the party rolling. All right, so we go up to their rooms, and we're joking, we're playing games, we're doing body shots off of each other. It's all dudes, by the way, with hairy belly buttons. But it's cool, we're secure in our masculinities. And then Jared comes over. He's kind of like a fatherly figure on the boat. And he asked me something that you don't normally ask. It's a very loaded question on submarine. He says, hey Chris, how are you? And I immediately start bawling and I crumble into his arms and I say, I'm not good, man. I tell him about my impending divorce and how my wife is leaving me for another man. And so we take that conversation out to the hotel courtyard. And if you zoom out, right, underneath the full moon, it's a circus of sailors running and jumping on top of each other. But then if you zoom in to the white gazebo, you'll see me completely becoming unwound and pouring my soul into Jared and Calvin, 2 actually more senior submariners. But they were more like 2 drunken angels in the moment. I wipe the tears from my face, and they tell me simply, that's rough, man, but we'll always be there for you. But then I realized it's 11 p.m. at this point, and we need to get back to our hotel. We lost Ryan, the other guy. We lost the way to get back onto the road. But fortunately, in Japan, they have 4-foot-tall wooden fences. So we hop the fence to get into the amusement park and find ourselves immediately into the children's section of Wijten Bosch. And we could not get on. Like, we hopped on the swings, and there was a 20-foot slide, and after a decent amount of shenanigans, I see behind me a security guard. There's a woman just with her flashlights. And I was saying, oh, okay, we're done. All right. She's escorting us down this path, and Steve looks over to me and he says, hey man, we gotta get out of here. I said, I agree. But how are we gonna do this? And I look over to my left, and he's 50 feet away from me already. So I start sprinting, and we duck and we cover, and we start sneaking into buildings to avoid like an international incident. We run from one set of cops, from another set of cops, and we hop a few more fences in the dark, an unknown amount, and we're just walking through a residential area, and we get up into this big grassy field, completely turned around. Steve looks over to me and says, look man, we're lost. We have to hunker down here for the night. I look at Steve and say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not sleeping outside, I'm sleeping indoors. I'm looking at my map right now, and it says that the Nico Nico Hotel is right there, just on the other side of that bamboo forest. And he says, no, I'm not going through that. And I said, Steve, trust me. We're going to get through there and we're going to find our friends. Because I'm determined to sleep in a bed. I grab him by his arm and we enter this bamboo forest. And it is so incredibly thick. I don't see him anymore as soon as we enter, and I don't hear anything but the cracking of the branches. And I only can see the light peering between. Before I know it, the ground slips from under me. And my limbs fall, and they clamber like human Jenga blocks. I imagine my bones clatter, but it feels like when a butcher slams down a slab of meat. Luckily, the alcohol absorbs the fall. And then I get up and I say, Steve, there's a massive ditch here. And he says, there's a massive what? And wham! His body thuds the ground as well, right? We get our feet from up under us, we step out of the pool of standing water, and I find that the walls are a little bit over 8 feet. I know this because they're well above my fingertips. And I'm reaching, trying to find handholds or footholds, and Japanese engineering is very precise. There is none. A few moments of desperation come by. I realize the walls are too tall and too smooth to climb out of. And for a second there, I wonder what it would be like to die in that ditch with Steve at 27 years old in the dark in Sasebo, Japan, which is 6,000 miles away from home. But that second doesn't last very long, because off into the distance, I can hear two angels yelling, Chris, Steve, Chris. And I was like, Jared? Calvin? And luckily earlier that night in the gazebo, I gave them my phone's live location. And eventually, two silhouettes come from under the amber hue of the streetlight. And then two pairs of hands reach down and grab us out of there. So that was 5 years ago, and I still fall sometimes, but I still seek out the community that will pull me out of that darkness. Thank you.